now. This session will be recorded and available on the information vault for members of PSA, and the details on how to access that are on our website. It's going live tomorrow. You'll get a newsletter tomorrow to tell you about that. So Winston Marsh is the elder statesman of the industry. He's one of the founders of National President PSA.
And other things to do, so I think the skills ordered.
He's an expert in marketing. I'm going to ask everyone to mute yourself. I'm getting a whole lot of noise coming through, so please mute yourself just to make everything run smoothly. Without further ado, I am going to hand over to Winston. Winston, it is all in your hands.
Thanks, Warwick, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming up. I hope you find this to be of some advantage. We will necessarily skate through this fairly quickly, but let me say to you at the outset, it is not the beginning of the end, rather the end of the beginning. I will welcome having individual conversations with anybody using this wonderful medium of Zoom or answering emails. We just need to set up convenient times. So, we're happy to follow up and give you any help you need, because we want to see you on the stage getting rid of old farts like me. Let me start by saying, when it comes to professional speaking, a professional speaker's job is to change people's thought, word, or deed. If you don't do that, I don't think you're doing much at all. But, hey, that covers it all, doesn't it? We're going to change their thought, word, or deed. Secondly, it is in PSA now that we define ourselves as experts who speak, which it follows you must have some expertise of some sort. Now, from my viewpoint, it doesn't matter. I don't care what you talk about. Once you put a saleable speech together, you can find somebody who will want to pay you for it. But the trick is to make sure it does what they want to do rather than what you want to do. So a saleable speech is one where there is a need for that speech, and someone is not only willing to have you come out and give it, but is willing to pay you for it. I know many of us want to talk for free, and I believe talking for free until you can talk for fee is a very good way to go. But to be a professional speaker, unless you can pay for the stuff you put in the supermarket trolley, speaking for nothing is not a good way to go. So there are three things you need to do to make it as a professional speaker. Number one, you must have a commercial speech. That is a speech that somebody wants to pay you to deliver. Secondly, you must be able to deliver it effectively. And thirdly, and most importantly, you need to have somebody who is prepared to pay you for you to do so. So you've got to have a commercial speech, you've got to be able to deliver it, you've got to have somebody to pay, which means that you must always understand the difference between your market and your audience. And I think that's a subtlety that many people in their beginning times don't understand. The market is the person who will pay you in a number of ways to deliver that speech. And you can be paid in cash, you can be paid in kind, you can be paid in many other ways. I won't go into that. Your audience generally rewards you in two ways: by wild applause and purchasing your products in whatever form you make them available. But remember, it is the person who pays who decides whether they want to deliver you. And what they want may be totally different to what the audience wants. They might want, as a managing director, want higher productivity, but talking to an audience about productivity isn't what you would talk about. You'd talk about what you do and the benefits of them doing that to themselves rather than to the company. So to be a speaker, you must have either done something, you must be somebody, or you must have something to say. So I know many of you will already have topics, and I guess that comes under the number one heading of, what are you passionate about? Is there something you're so passionate about that you want to spread the message? Now, you know, sometimes we can have misguided passion. We're very passionate about it, but nobody else cares less or could care about it. So again, you can't be blinded by your own belief in the topic. You've got to be conscious of the market. Always ask yourself two questions. Who would I deliver this speech to, and who would pay me to do it? And you must have answers to both of those questions. Who would I like to deliver this speech to? Who's my ideal audience? And secondly, who's my ideal speaker hirer? Who's going to pay me for it? So you're getting a topic. You might be passionate about something, but here are some questions you might want to ask yourself. What am I really interested in? What do I strongly believe? What are my pet peeves or big beefs? What are my strong likes? What have I done? What am I an expert in? Where have I been? Who do I know? What do I know? What am I an expert in? What have I seen or heard? And again, what am I passionate about? So good speeches come from within you. You don't contrive them externally. They've got to be something about which you feel very strongly, you have a passion for, and you want to share it. Sharing it in a commercial way, of course, is the key to all this. And it's where so many people go wrong. The effective speaker, I love this quote, it's by Orvin Larson. I wish it were mine, but it isn't. The effective speaker has a trained mind. Effective speaking is effective thinking aloud. That's nice. Let me say it again. Effective speaking is effective thinking aloud, yeah. So your trained mind, what you've got to do is evaluate reasoning, disentangle fact and fancy, truth and prejudice, real reason and good reason. You've got to weigh your data and your sources. You've got to get the essentials and not lose the forest for the trees. You've got to organise what you're taking in, assess the rewards of it, and be able to succinctly state what you say. Now, therefore, we need to do some research on our speech, no matter how long or how passionate we feel about it. So some of the research you might do, and this is well before the time you've got to get it. And let me just put in brackets here. The best way to get a speech to pay is to get a booking to do the speech. Nothing succeeds like having the hot iron on your backside of having to do a speech which you are having to deliver on a certain date. A lot of us are vacillating because really we know we're going to have a speech, but we don't have to have it for a date. At some other session, maybe Warwick will talk about how you can get 5 or 6 bookings within a couple of weeks. Once you've got the right sort of talk, once you've got the right sort of speech. So I'd suggest for you, what you might do is write 50 words about what your speech is all about. Not written for an audience, written for somebody you think may pay you to deliver it. And really polish those words. Get them so they are marketing words. There's a book called Words That Sell that's very handy for getting words that really ripple with people when they read them. So try putting what you want to say, not the speech itself, if you like putting an outline of it, putting a, what's the word I want, Warwick, you know, the 50-word outline of your speech. Put it together. Think of somebody reading it and saying, gee, I'd want to listen to this. You know, a little trickle of dribble runs down their chin as they think, God, this is going to make a difference to my membership. This is going to make a difference to my staff. This is going to make a difference to wives or husbands or partners or whoever. Try doing an outline of your speech without doing an outline. And then start to be alert for pertinent bits that add to it. You know, I'm saying do some research. Maybe keep a diary of happenings, events and anecdotes. Now, I have what I call a swipe file. And every time I see something of relevance, I put it in a swipe file. I think if I was up to date with technology, I'd be using Evernote for that. Everybody tells me how great Evernote is, and I really should use it. But look for happenings, events, anecdotes which may be relevant to what you want to say. Because I reckon in your mind, if you've got a topic already, you're sort of getting into a bit of a rut with it, and you want to introduce new thoughts, new thinking, new ideas. Look for something funny happening every day. Look for something sad happening every day. You never know where you want them, but we're putting together a talk, and we're going to draw lots of things from everywhere, not just our preconceived narrow track. So observation and experience is important. Seek for information. Like we've got the World Wide Web. Google your topic. Look around, see what there is, see the pros and cons. Interview people, and that's easy to do now. Other people who are on the same maybe topic as you, but they'll have a different point of view. And of course, look at the media, radio, press, television, all the social media, and good old-fashioned libraries. But I think you put a speech together much better when you have a cacophony of facts, if that's not mixing a metaphor, a big grab bag. And of course, when you do this, what are you becoming? You're becoming an expert in your topic. You're broadening your viewpoint. You're getting different viewpoints. You're getting all those things that you need to be able to spill it out. I reckon, too, that the most important thing, after you've written that little synopsis, those little 50 words, we've got to think about a title. The title is the headline. Headlines sell everything. In fact, one of the best ways to write any speech, to get it going, is to have the headline first, to have the title. Remember when you're a little kid? I guess you're in grade 3 or 2, no, perhaps grade 1, and they wrote on the whiteboard, look at me updating that. We used to have a blackboard and chalk. I had a slate. But teacher came in one day and said, here are 3 topics, kids. What I did on my holidays, my trip to the zoo, or a day at the beach. And your teacher said to you, now I want you to write a story about that. I want you to do composition, I think it was called, composition. And as a kid, we picked one of those titles, my trip to the zoo, a day at the beach, what I did on my holidays. And guess what all of us were able to do? We were able to write an interesting story about that. And really, a good speech is an interesting story about your topic. It's a shame we lost that ability as a kid. It's a shame that we still can't do that. So getting the title is very important. Ask yourself, what do I want to say? Who will I be saying it to? What will people do after I've said it? Will somebody pay me to get people to do something after I've said it? If so, who? What will attract their attention? You know, what's in it for them? Use the magic words. There are 12 magic words. He says, I haven't got them in front of me, but words like you and free and love are great. If you want the magic words, just send me an email or give us a note or something and we'll make sure you get them. There are lots of even more important phrases like how to. But getting that title, I think, gives you the direction. And, you know, if you say to the right people, if you said to your target market, oh, yeah, my talk is such and such and such and such, and they said to you, gee, that sounds interesting, you know you've got something. I see so many hairy-fairy, boring titles when, if you remember what sells newspapers, what gets you to read emails, look at blogs and all that sort of thing, is the headline. The title is what lures people into going further, into getting the person that will pay you wanting to know more, and getting the audience to listen to you. How many headlines would I write? How many titles would I have for anybody? I'd have 10, 15, 20. Just keep doing it, because what it does is assemble your thoughts. That's so important. So you've got to find your material. You've done your research. You've got everything together. You know where you're going. What have we got to do? Well, I have a formula that I have used ever since I've been in the business. And I believe, remember this, you're probably taught this in Rostrum or Toastmasters or somewhere. A good speech is made up of 3 components. The first part, which is 10 to 20% of your time, is tell people what you're going to tell them. The last part, 10 to 20%, is tell the people you've told them. So the middle bit, 60 to 80% of the time, is telling them. Telling them. So really, if you're going to speak for 40 minutes, a typical keynote, then 60%, that'd be 24 to 80%, 32 minutes, 24 to 32 minutes is the body of your speech. This is the guts. This is where you're telling them what your message is. So how do you get there? Well, if you've got 60 to 80% of your time, I believe you should start, you'll never finish with this, but I believe you should start by saying, in the body of my speech, I'm going to tell them the 5 most important things I think I need to get across to them. I'm going to explain those 5 most important things. Now, if you've got, 60, say 30 minutes, makes it easier for the guts of the speech, 30 minutes. If you're going to tell them 5 things, you've got 6 minutes to make each point. And what you've got to do is make that point and prove it. Now, this is where you can use all sorts of things that are relevant to your audience. You can use statistics, you can use quotes, you can use testimonies, authorities, you can use examples, you can use humour, you can use illustrations. But that is the guts of your speech, that 60 to 80%, 5 key points. So on whatever your topic is, what are the most important points you want to make? And be aware that to a certain extent, the points you might want to make will be relevant to your audience. What you would say to people in Provis, retired people, would probably be different to what you'd say to millennials. Not probably, they would be. But if you have the understanding of your topic and you have the ability to think and to know, then changing the proof of the points you're making to suit an audience won't be hard. And often you'll arrive and you'll find the audience is quite different to the one you expected to get. So you can't lock yourself in. You've got to be able to give them examples. You've got to give them testimonies. You've got to give them quotes. You've got to give them statistics. You've got to do all that sort of thing. And I believe the best way of getting those 5 points together is telling it like a story. You know, stories work so well. I don't mean you invent stories or you find stories to put in. I mean you make the middle part of that speech really your story. You make the points in it. You sell the benefits of your thinking so people can say, yeah, I see that. You use the examples, you use the statistics, you use the graphics, you use the music, whatever you want to use to make that point. You're telling a story. And what did you learn to do when you were a kid in about grade 2 or 3? You learned to tell stories. How did mum get you out of the bath when you were there and put you into your little bunny rabbit-eared slippers? She said, hop out of the bath and mummy will tell you a story. Audiences love stories. Audiences love your story if you put it together. Now, please understand, I'm not saying you select a whole lot of stories. You put what you want to say so it becomes a story. So people love to listen to it. And you take them on that journey. So that's the middle bit of your speech. In the 10 to 20% at the start, you tell them what you're going to tell them. You get the audience relaxed. I think one of the keys to a good speaker is to watch a good speaker start, and you can almost see the audience settle back and say, well, they don't cross their arms, but they settle back and they say, I'm in good hands. I can listen to this, people. I'm enjoying what they say. So that first 10% to 20% is you soften them up. If possible, you use some humour. If possible, you might tell them a story about you. If possible, you set the scene. I often say what we've got to do with an audience is either disturb them, or we'll disturb them. We can disturb them negatively by saying, you guys are going to jail, or we can disturb them positively by saying, you can have $1 million as easy as this. And then you start to build on it and tell them, and then you reach in and take over your body of the story. Now, it doesn't have to be 10%, it could be 8%, it could be 5%. You might want to use more for the guts. That's just sort of a good guide. And at the end, you summarise. You make sure they understand what you've made. So you recapitulate, and I think almost invariably you want to leave them in no doubt as to what their thought, word or deed should be. You know, you can go and hear sports stars who tell you all about how they made it and they kicked the last goal or they skied the 1,000 metre or whatever it is. But at the end of it, you kind of say, so what? At the end of hearing a professional speaker, I want people to know what they're going to do with either thought, word or deed. You've illustrated it. You've sold it so well to them, they know that clearly. And they walk away saying, here's what I want to do. Here's what I'll use. And really, that will come easy if you put your story together well. So, how do we go about it physically? Well, here's my advice. Here's what I do, and here's what I've done for so many people. I say, once you've got the facts, once you've got all of your expertise together and you've thought about it, it's all in there, I would write your speech like an essay. Now, the beauty part is you don't have to write it like an essay. I'm using my iPhone for most of my dictation. I just love getting an email set up there or notes and just dictating. And there's a beauty part, rather than writing it like an essay, if you dictate it, and don't worry if you stutter and stammer and get all over the place, doesn't matter, but it is always much more important to have a speech that sounds like you say it rather than like you've written it. You know, one of the problems we have is people write a speech and it sounds like it's written. It's done for the benefit of dear old Bessie Stainforth, your old English teacher back in secondary college. She used to raise her eyebrows and she would roll over in her grave now if she saw me using one-word paragraphs or two-word sentences or starting a talk with an and. But that's the way we talk. That's what's easy for people to listen to. And a speech, it'll probably be good to read at the end, but what it's got to be is great to listen to. So speak like you spoke, or what is it? Say it like it is. And thank you. There was somebody from Gian Pereira. Synopsis is a 50 to 150 word description of a topic. Conference organisers will ask for it to use in the program and the conference app. Make the point there for you, Gian, that sometimes when you provide something for the person that's paying you, it will be different to something that is going to go to the audience. Your synopsis of a speech that's going in the program must make people in the audience want to come. Your outline of a speech must make somebody want to pay you for. And thank you. Don't we all love Betty Stainforth? Warwick Merry says, did you go to school with Bessie Stainforth?
Oh, I think I had a teacher who was just like Betty Stainsforth, who's just, everything had to be dotted and crossed and conjugated. I don't even know what a conjugated verb is, but, they had to be conjugated.
Well, I can tell you, she almost died when I passed year 11 Latin. It had killed the Romans and it almost killed Bessie Stainsforth. I think me passing Latin. Never regretted it. So, come back to this. Sorry about the rickety chair. What we've got to do is dictate the speech and get that written down. Now, as a rough guide for you, find out how long it takes you to deliver an A4 page. So if you take a minute to do an A4 page and you've got 30 minutes to go, you'll need 30 pages. I'd be amazed if you did. But get an idea of how much you've got to write. Don't worry about it too much at the start. Get your thoughts down. Get your thoughts down. Get your thoughts down. Your thoughts, not anybody else's, your thoughts. So get them down. And then start to deliver that talk. One of the big things you'll find is if you thought you needed 30 pages, by the time you finished, you'll need 15 or 20. You'll take pages out. You'll have too much content. Because you see, once we start to deliver it, and I see so many people, they turn up on the stage, they've got a written speech and they want to read it. Have you seen professors do that and lecturers, they turn there and they read it? Boring. Another definition of a professional speaker is you've got to have something interesting to say and say it in an interesting way. University lecturers have something interesting to say, but generally say it in a boring way. Sports stars say things in an interesting way, but have really got nothing to say at the end of it. Broad generalisation, and forgive me, lecturers and sports stars, but that's the way it is. So get that speech out and start to deliver it. More importantly, find a place where you can deliver it so you get used to the sound of your own voice. Your own voice. I used to find the bathroom was fantastic. I could not only do that, I could look in the mirror. There's a bit of a problem when the 9 other kids came in and flushed the toilet, but most of the time it worked pretty well. But don't sit down to try and deliver your talk. Stand up, do it. Don't worry about gestures. People worry terribly about gestures. Gestures come. If you're in the pub having a chat with your friends, you don't think, now I must gesture here, I must gesture there. Your gestures are automatic. They will come. So start to deliver that talk of yours. Take out the difficult words to say. Start to put in things that are important. What are important? White space. That's a pause. If you want to underline something, you pause or you repeat it. That makes it very important. A longer pause makes it even more important and even more registrable in their minds. Use things like alliteration, the silvery snake slides slowly. Little tricks like that to put in. And of course, get into a little bit of humour. Now, people worry about humour and they go away and pay a lot of money for it. The best source of humour I've ever found, and it's still available, but there's all sorts of trouble, get yourself a Reader's Digest or 2. Now, if you have to, go to the doctors, because the doctor generally has a number of Reader's Digest from about 1975 or 1982. But they have lots of things in there that are useful to speakers. There's a section called Life's Like That, where people tell stories about what's happened in their life with a bit of humour. And often you can say, that's happened to me, and it can become, you're not pinching, it's just giving you a trigger to think about it. They have little 2-line jokes. Another thing I think it's marvellous, they have what word is that, I think it's called, where you've got to define what the word is, and you look at and you find you get so much from an old Reader's Digest. One of the best sources of some humour. But of course, look for humour in your own life. And for all of us, something interesting or humorous happened to us today. Interesting or humorous or worth adding in. I've just written a blog about having my car serviced, and it reminded me of Clint Eastwood saying, "Go ahead, make my day." because the woman who delivered the car back to me, as I got into the car, she opened the door, she handed me the keys and she said, "You've got a beautiful car there, Mr. Marsh." Hey, nobody else has told me it's beautiful, but I liked having affirmation that I had a nice car and I bought the right one. It becomes a story. How can I use that? How can you use the things you see in everyday happenings? Don't try. I have a couple of things. Now, if you do this, please, I'm not getting into you. I have a couple of things that I really hate if we're a professional speaker. Look, my definition of a professional speaker is that the audience is there to hear you. That's game, set, match. They're there to hear you. So, of course, I really get upset when somebody starts off by saying, "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now, who here likes carrots?" And they wait for people to put their hand up and say, "Who likes carrots?" Now, you just surrender control to the audience when you do that. What you do is you make the assumption and you say, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody here likes carrots." Now, there's some poor bugger up the back row who doesn't like carrots, but he's not going to exactly yell out, "No, I don't." He doesn't want it. So never surrender control. And please, please, as a professional speaker, very rarely do you find it necessary to tell people to talk to the person alongside them. I don't want the person alongside me's views. I want to know what you as the expert are going to tell me. So tell me. I mean, if I knew you were going to get me to talk to the person alongside me, I would have sat alongside somebody who I thought was worthwhile. I generally just go for the best looking woman or something. Not that they ever want to sit alongside me. But, for heaven's sake, do not surrender control. Just, you're there. You're the professional speaker to change their thought, word, or deed. It's your story. It's your beliefs. It's what you want to get across in an interesting way. Make it so they are interested. So we write it like that. Very simple. We take it out. We put in the light and shades, the pauses. You speed it up. You slow it down. You say it louder. I love the English language. Have a look at the words. The word slow cannot be said fast. You can't say slow. Similarly, you cannot say the word fast slowly. You're joking. You cannot say the word up in a downward inflection. You can't say down upwardly. See, when you get the words right, it makes it come alive. Just look at what you've got there and deliver it. And please, please, when you go into Word and you've got it up on the computer, go into the part of Word, grammar, spelling and grammar, and put on readability. Readability. That assesses what education standard your audience needs to have to understand what you've written. And for many of us, it'll be about 22 years. They'll have had to do 6 years primary, 6 years secondary, and 3 university degrees. And even then, they stop learning English at about year 10. Newspapers are written for people who have been educated. If it's the Sun, that's written, the Sun Herald in Melbourne, the tabloid, that's written for year 8. And The Age, the broadsheet, more serious, is written for year 10. Because most people stop learning language after that. The beauty of a good speech is simplicity and polishing the words. Go through, use the thesaurus.com, American publication, but it'll do us. Use thesaurus.com and say, how can I get exactly the meaning I want there? How can I turn this from brass to gold? How can I make this me rather than somebody else? You'll be amazed. The more you deliver it to an audience of none, in other words, yourself, the better it becomes. Now, occasionally, what I found was good was to transfer my practice into the kitchen. I was a fairly good producer of, well, no, my wife was a good producer of children. I was involved in some of the actions. we had 4 kids and they had about 4 million friends, and I'd be delivering my speech, practicing, and the kids would wander in and out of the kitchen and say, "Good day, Dad." Some would listen and they'd give me the, quick observation like, "Sounds like a whole lot of crap, Dad." Well, sometimes kids would sit down and listen to me because they were enjoying what they said. So I was doing 2 things. I was getting a little bit of feedback, but I was also getting used to interruptions. Now the waiter can drop 10 trays of plates or knives and forks and I will not be put off because I'm used to having that happen. I don't need Australia's best MC in Warwick or in Brett to have to cover for me while I recover. I can do that because I've practiced. Then what will help you most of all, having put the words together, is to get out and do it. Now, yes, I know there are 2 schools of thought on how we can develop as a speaker. Number 1, we can firstly become famous by writing a book or doing something like that. Or number 2, we can speak for free until we speak for free. But whatever you do, get out there and deliver it. Don't wait until you're going to get paid. Deliver it. And you'll find what happens if you're doing a good job. One day you'll be delivering it, maybe just to, an organisation who asks you to speak and is going to give you a bottle of port or something. And you'll do it and somebody will come up and say, "Could you do this for my staff? Could you do this for..." But you're getting better every time. People say to me, "Winnow, what's the best speech you've ever given?" And I simply say, "I don't know. I haven't given it yet. I'm trying to get better every time, trying to improve it, looking for better ways of seeing, looking at what the audiences do when I do it." When it came to product, my target market was small to medium-sized business. I could tell you if there were 100 in the audience, how many lots of my product I would sell. And if I didn't sell that amount, I asked myself, what did I do wrong? If I sold more, I'd say, what did I do right? Because I was continuously evaluating. Now here in PSA, we are a brotherhood. Now, what is the non-sexist term, Warwick, for a brotherhood? We are a peoplehood, I guess.
Fraternity then becomes masculine as well. We're a group of cool people who want each other to succeed, and we're here to help.
Oh, okay. We're a group of cool people who want to succeed, and we're here to help.
Tribe.
And that's...
Thanks, Amanda. We're a tribe.
We're a tribe. Yeah, all right. Listen, tribe, that's one of the beaut things. Get somebody who's much better than you to come and listen to you. That's so important. And then don't get, can I use this terrible phrase, pissed off when they tell you what you need to do to improve. Be a person that seeks advice and criticism. The only thing I say is get it from somebody who is better than you, because if they're equal to you or worse than you, they're going to make you equal to them or worse than you. And I don't think there's a serious member of PSA, me with 35 years in the business, who isn't happy to do that. Now, if you're in the country and I know somebody's at Dubbo, well, then maybe you've got to deliver it over Zoom or maybe send a video. But for heaven's sake, get some input, get some critique from people whose opinion you value and how you will react to it. So it's all pretty simple. How long would it take you to get a speech that pays? What about 4 weeks? Some of us have really got to get serious about this speaking business. A lot of us feel comfortable about being part of PSA without necessarily doing anything about becoming a professional speaker, not a professional observer or a professional hanger-on. You're a professional speaker when you are speaking. And there are speaking opportunities and areas to get paid everywhere, no matter what your speech is, no matter what your topic. But that's for another day, how to find those opportunities, because until you've got a talk that people will want to pay you to put you in front of an audience, you ain't a professional speaker. So, how's that for timing, Warwick?
That's fantastic. Ever the true professional, spot on 40 minutes. All right. We know. Thank you so much. There was some absolute gold in there, and some. Pardon me. People were saying earlier how it was just some rock solid, fantastic goodness there. So I've got a challenge for people, and I'm just interested in terms of who already believes they have a presentation that pays. Because if you don't, here's the challenge. We're going to be running this session again, different topic, the first Tuesday of next month at 8 p.m. You've got until then to create a presentation that pays. It's up to you what it's about, but create it. That's your deadline. You've got 4 weeks. That's more than enough time. In fact, I reckon 4 weeks is probably generous, don't you, Winnow?
If you had to do it to buy your next meal, how long would it take?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, get serious. So you got 4 weeks. And so what I want you to do in that 4 weeks is create it and then run it by someone and get some initial feedback. Doesn't mean you have to present it. Doesn't mean you have to go in detail, but at least talk to someone who, as Winnow says, is a bit further along the path than yourself and get some feedback as to how sellable they think it is and then start to tweak it. And then your next step is in the following month, sell it. And, whether it's a local real estate, this is one of the tips that I learned from the legendary Winston Marsh is real estate agents, there's so many of them all around the country, no matter how big your country town is or how big your city is. And every Monday morning, the real estate agents have a sales meeting. Every Monday morning, the sales manager's thinking to himself, holy bejeebils, what do I speak about this week? And so you might not get thousands of dollars for it, maybe $500 to go in and speak for 45 minutes or half an hour to a sales team, if that's, an appropriate target market for you. But that's an excellent place to start. Now, we know you offered the 12 magic words earlier on. That's correct, yeah?
Yep. 12 words. Use one of them in a headline. Use one of them in a title.
So if you want to find out what those 12 words are, send an email to guru@winstonmarsh.com.au and Winston will happily send you that list of 12 words.
Don't forget, Warwick, as I said, this isn't the beginning of the end. I don't intend to pack up and steal away into the night with my camels. If you need the help, this is the beginning of the, what is it? It's the beginning of, no, it's the end of the beginning. That's
basically, we're still around. If you need help, contact Winnow or myself directly, or any other CSP that are happy to help. But in this instance, we've been the ones that have been here to help. So challenge is on. You've got 4 weeks. Create a presentation that sells. 40 minutes long. And, we'd love to hear from you.
Warwick, are there any burning questions that people must have answered before we go?
Or the next thing. If anyone has any burning questions, can someone post emails in here to send for help? So I'm just typing the email address there, Winston at... Oh, sorry. If anyone else has any questions, please put them in the chat box. We are more than happy to take your questions. There you go. And we are more than happy to help you. Sounds like there's no burning questions. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to leave it there. Thank you, everyone, for your time. We hope this has been of value. Here's the thing. Kat said, is there any tips on knowing what people will pay for?
Do you mean, put it this way, find out what their problems are and provide them with a solution and you've got a speech.
Yeah.
I think all of you, no matter what you talk about, have got to look at what the benefits of your speech are and tailor them to suit the market and the audience.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what you talk about, there's somebody who's going to pay you for it.
Yep, great. John's come up with a question, are there any exceptions to the never surrender control rule?
Of course there are. Many people like to be interactive. I just don't. I hate being interacted anyway, and I hate doing it. But of course, the beaut part about Winnow's rules are that they are made to be broken.
and as a contrast, as an MC, where I do most of my work, I always surrender control. But I will only surrender it if I know I can get it back. And there are certain audiences and situations I know I'll never get it back, so they never get it. and I'm well rehearsed in how to get it back. So you don't give anything up if you can't get it back.
And Warwick, as an MC, has a different task to do with somebody who's in there as an expert who speaks.
Yep. All right. Thank you, ladies and gents. Rachel, I'm happy to help have a look at your thing before the 23rd. Not a problem. And yeah, if you have any further questions, feel free to shoot us an email. We know. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, everybody. I hope you found it of value.